Hello, everyone. My name is Carrie, and I am interviewing Millers on August 25th, 2020, for the WiC Oral History Project. This interview is being conducted and recorded in a private Discord chat. The recording will be made available for anyone interested on the Black Dragons Discord in the Oral Histories channel. Thank you for joining me today, Millers.
Carrie, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
No worries. So first question I ask every single person. How do you pronounce your in-game name, and why did you choose this name for yourself?
So just pronounce it Millers. It's just a name I've used in other games I've played in the past. It has a sort of connection to my family. It's not like a last name or anything like that, but it's just a name that's sort of connected to my family. And another name that I would have chosen was taken. And I used this one instead.
Okay. Have you used this name before in like other gaming or just?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So yeah,
No, that's a
so it's
popular thing. It's like we rehash the same sort of group of names.
yeah, it's funny. I've used this name in other games in the past. And I sometimes laugh because you get so comfortable with people calling you by that name. Like I sometimes forget that I have another name, right? It's
No, I
like
get
it's,
it. I get it. I get
it's,
it. Like,
people call you Millers 500 times a day, so you forget it's not your actual name. But
yes.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I share a Discord with real life friends, and I basically just have to keep reminding them that, yeah, the squirrel thing is just a gaming thing. Please don't judge me. So, when did you start playing Gotwick?
So I was probably like a little after the start of the game, so I'd probably say uh, maybe around April. I'm like so bad with dates, but probably around April of last year. So
Okay.
April 2019, I would say roughly. Um, yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay. And what got you first interested in playing the game?
Honestly, it was probably one of those kind of pop-ups, like on a browser or like Facebook or something. I can't remember exactly.
I
Um,
gotcha.
Obviously, I was a huge fan of the show and the books. And saw something online and checked out the game. It's funny thinking back. I don't really know how I made that transition from seeing some sort of advert to like all of a sudden playing this game every day. That it's kind of funny to think of that, but I don't really know how that happened. But just sort of fell into it and enjoyed the game enough to keep playing.
Do you play with anybody from real life, like friends or family?
No, I didn't know a single person. I actually don't know a single person in my real life that also plays this game. So all the people I've met have been sort of new friends. Playing the game.
Okay. Um, so you started in April 2019. What was your first kingdom?
So First Kingdom was K24. Um, it was actually a great kingdom. I think candidly, I don't think I would have continued to play the game if my initial experience in the game hadn't been as positive as it was. Um, it was just, until even to this day, it was probably the most social kingdom I've been on. Like, just, people from all different alliances would like hang out and voice chat.
Really, in
Most
voice chat?
Yeah, it was kind of like maybe unique. I haven't spoken to enough people about this to fully understand maybe how unique it was, but I mean, we had people from almost every alliance would be hanging out in voice chat every night, like 20, 25 people, kind of just chilling and getting to know each other. It was a relatively easygoing kingdom with a lot of good people. Um, you know, as happens with most kingdoms, when they fall out of that initial protection period, whatever, and people can move in and move out and stuff like that, things change. The dynamic of the
Yeah.
kingdom changes quite rapidly, but those first few months there were really fun, and I got to meet a lot of pretty nice people.
That's really great. That is a very unique experience. I don't think I've heard of any other kingdom like that. Has
Yeah.
that been adopted at any of the other kingdoms that you have joined?
No, I think the funny thing is we've like, myself and friends and alliance members that came from that kingdom have probably tried to reenact that on other kingdoms, and like anytime we've moved kingdom, we try and like jump in the sort of the that the shared Discord voice channel, and you tend to find that people are just very hesitant to get in voice with people they don't know, and yeah, been very hard to recreate that. Since K24. I think you definitely have times like a KVK perhaps that you might get in voice with people from other alliances on your kingdom, but yeah, I think those days might unfortunately be gone of lots of people hanging out on the same Discord and voice and that sort of stuff. But it was pretty cool while it lasted.
Okay. It sounds like an amazing experience. So you started on K24.
Yep.
What alliance?
So, oh God, I honestly couldn't even. It's so bad, like, but I couldn't even remember the name of the sort of the initial alliance that I kind of fell into for a very short period of time. But then I sort of joined an alliance called FNW,
Okay.
um, which is essentially what my current alliance TNR is now. Um, myself and a girl called Clara Soley, who I still play with, and she's an awesome person, and Banky Edwards, who's also still in TNR, kind of took the reins there, and there was for various reasons we kind of decided to create a new alliance, which was called TNR. And we took all the members from F&W and created this new alliance, and we've kind of been running that alliance ever since. So it's kind of it's it's survived like some mergers and all this kind of stuff, but TNR has kind of been an alliance for almost a year, which is pretty good going, because a lot of alliances tend to fold or be rolled into other alliances and whatnot. So we've been around for a while now. It's been a really fun experience, kind of building an alliance from, God, I kind of remember when we were like 400 million power, total, which is kind of nuts to think about. But I sort of remember those days, so it's kind of fun to think back to that sort of starting point, and sort of where we've been and where we've got to now. It's been just a cool experience.
So let's elaborate on that a bit. So TNR, describe the alliance to me as best you can. What would you describe it like?
I want to describe it like, so I think there's a couple of core principles, right? Like, honestly, like one of our biggest mantras or sort of principles within the alliance, if you don't mind me, if you excuse my French for a second, but like our biggest thing is like we have like a don't be a dick policy,
Yes.
right?
I'm very familiar with that policy. It's a good policy.
And we've been very unwavering and very uncompromising about just being sort of zero policy on things like racism or sexism or any of that kind of stuff in our alliance. Like it doesn't matter if you're billion BR, like if you behave in a certain way that like is sort of distasteful or disrespectful, we've always like just automatically kicked people like that, and I'm sort of quite proud of that record we've had in that respect. I think that the alliance is, I mean, this is obviously unbiased, but I think we're filled with just a lot of really good people and good players. Um, and we have focused mostly on PvP, I would say.
Okay.
Um, as an alliance, like it's taken time and it's taken a lot of effort to try and recruit people and help current members to put them in a position where they're comfortable and knowledgeable to PvP. And that's what, for the most part, our alliance enjoys, and I think it's something that we thrive at. But that sort of didn't happen overnight. That was many months of trying to recruit members, certain types of members, and trying to um, like I said, there was a lot of just helping current members to how to PvP and how to do it effectively and whatnot. So I would say that we're predominantly known as like a PvP alliance.
Okay.
It's not to say that we don't participate in the PvE side of things, but we perhaps don't thrive at that as much as some other alliances do. But yeah, so I think that for me, when I think of TNR, the two biggest things, I think we have a lot of just really good people. I'm sure people with fought in the past might not necessarily agree, but like just internally, I think our members are pretty good and um, are conscientious and whatnot. And I think that we're pretty good at the PvP side of the game.
Okay. So you've only been in TNR? Have you ever been in any other alliance?
Yeah, so I actually I've spent so much of my time in this game in TNR, but I took a brief sabbatical and moved to another server just because I wanted some more PvP opportunities, and I joined an alliance called FDH,
Okay.
which is another great alliance. A lot of like really nice people there. Um, they're now on K67. At that time that I moved there, they were on K12. Um, and I was very briefly in the cartel with another account of mine.
Okay.
Um, just a really short stay, but they're also like a lot of like really nice people there. I've got a lot of respect for those two alliances.
So what drew you to those two specifically?
So the FDH thing was actually more just circumstantial. I had moved to K12 because I wanted to. I basically went with a very small group of friends because I wanted to basically fight everyone on the server.
I gotcha.
um, and while I was there, there was like a sort of invasion, I guess, of sorts from an alliance called ARP, which is pretty well known
Yes.
as invaders, I guess, in this game. And an account at that time was called Moyen, which was one of the strongest accounts in the game. So they came to the server, and I basically decided to join one of the native alliances to help kind of fight those guys. So FDH, I had a friend already in the alliance, so I decided to chip them to kind of help them to fight those guys.
Okay.
So it was a fun experience.
And Cartel, how'd you end up with them?
That was honestly like my stay in cartel was like shamefully short, just because I have a second account which is also like a pretty strong account, but I just wanted to kind of mix things up and kind of play on two servers, and then it just so happened that a couple of alliances that came to the server my main account was on, and I kind of needed to take my alt account back to help fight
Ah,
on that server. Yeah, so it was a very very brief stay. So I mean I couldn't even really claim to have been in cartel because my account was in there for like about 2 weeks or something like that. But it was a good 2 weeks.
I gotcha. I gotcha.
Yeah, yeah.
So you
So
are definitely PvP oriented. What do you think is the reason why? What is it that you get out of PvP?
So I think so for me, I spent 15 years of my life as a professional athlete,
Okay.
um, in my real life. And, I think that, the thrill as an athlete, right, is winning and losing, right?
Okay.
And um, I don't really get a buzz unless I can lose it all, right? Like
It's
when
that risk factor.
it's the risk factor. I think like it's the competitive nature of the PvP, right? There's like this cat and mouse element to it. Mistakes can be costly, and um, you know, I I've made mistakes playing this game, right? Like I think one of my strengths is I don't make that many mistakes, but I've made mistakes in this game, and you get punished when you make mistakes, and I kind of like that, right? I've got this very like I'm very self motivated, and I get very angry with myself when I make
Oh,
mistakes, but it makes me a better player because I don't tend to make the same mistake
right.
twice. So I enjoy the kind of instant learning experience that you have with PvP.
Okay.
I think I think a lot of PvE stuff when you're not necessarily risking your own troops, like you can make a lot of mistakes and not necessarily get punished for them. Um, so for me, you don't actually learn as much. Um, so I think that um, with the PvP stuff, I enjoy that aspect. I enjoy the risk. I enjoy the cat and mouse. I enjoy the team aspect of it more than anything. Like, um, rallies, for example. Like, it doesn't matter how strong your account is, right? If you can't get people to reinforce your rally, if you can't get your alliance mates to send the right troops and all this kind of stuff, then your rally's relatively useless.
Right.
So I really enjoy the team aspect of it, and I think like that's something that I'm quite proud of in TNR is we have a big group of members that know what they're doing and are like if there is a rally happening, they are there. Like no questions asked. They are going to be there. They're going to join that rally. They're going to help the alliance, um, which I just love. And I've done so many rallies and so much PvPing with like a state with the same group of people. Like we all trust each other, and um, it's just really fun to do with people that you consider to be friends. Yeah, I enjoy a lot about uh, PvP. Yeah, PvP. But definitely the fact that like you can you can take some pretty bad losses, and you've got to be smart to not have that happen too often. I definitely like that aspect.
So, just to touch a little bit more on that, though, what would be an example of something that happened that was like a learning experience for you? We can use this almost as instructional for somebody else not to do it.
Yeah, so actually I had one recently. So I made my BR at the moment is about like 780 million, right?
Okay.
And I'm actually like I'm actually now a zero castle. So I made a decision a few months back. I'd actually been talking about this for about 6 months, but like I sort of saw the way the game was going with just um, the packs and the upgrades and whatnot that they were offering to people that were going to spend a lot of money. And like I'll preface this by saying I've spent a lot of money on this game, but I'm not. I really haven't spent. I made a decision maybe 4 months ago or something like that to stop spending, um, kind of like to the same extent as I had been,
Right.
because I wasn't really playing as much. I really had stopped playing as much as I was. Um, and I was kind of seeing the way the game was going to the point where I actually thought that like the new meta in the game was to be like a really strong zero castle. If you were not willing to spend insane amounts of money to max everything out, right? Um, so I basically I'm probably one of the few people that did this in the game, but I literally just deleted 17 million troops.
Oh, dude.
I like yeah,
You
I
didn't
just
wait for
pressed.
like Cast what's it called?
CCS or
Yeah,
something.
CCS.
CCS. No, I like some days I just make decisions and I just got to go with it. Like I have no
Okay.
patience. Like if something's in my mind, I just have to do it. So, but yeah, I made the decision and I just pressed delete on. I mean, it was like it was probably more, but it was about 17 million
Oh, dude.
royals.
Okay. You were
Yeah.
committed to it, so yeah.
So I committed to that. So, I decided, for me, like I think that for me, for castles like mine, the new meta is like being a really strong zero castle. But the issue is I'm also like the main rally lead for my alliance. So when you're the main rally lead,
Uh,
like every time you do a rally, you leave your castle very exposed because I don't actually hold that many troops because
right.
I like to be able to zero very quickly. Um, so I don't actually hold many troops. So every time I run a rally, I have to also zero my castle, and I mean, it's quite amusing to me. I find it kind of funny, but I've got to be quite quick with what I'm doing, and but also because my march size is over 1 million. Um, so if I go and attack someone, if I actually send out a march with my lord, I don't have very many troops left in my castle. So actually, recently I got a little sloppy. I sent an attack out, and someone like another mega whale hit my castle, and I lost a bunch of T4s. Um, so that would be an example of it. That was just me being a little bit complacent, but also really just me adjusting to like this new way of playing that I've decided on. And I just got stung a little bit just because I'm used to having a castle that has 17 million T4s in there, and it doesn't matter if my lord's out. If you try and solo it, you're probably going to lose your lord. So it's just like little learning experience like that. But I really when things like that happen, I don't ever get too upset about it. It's a mistake I've made, and I look at it as okay. Let's make sure that doesn't happen again.
No, it's a good idea. It's a good attitude to have. You have to be very adaptable.
Yeah, for sure.
So, going back to the TNR, so let's talk. What different kingdoms have you been on with it, with the alliance?
So yeah, so TNR originally was K24.
Right.
Then we moved to K27.
Okay.
We
Why'd you
stayed.
move there?
So K24 basically was as I was mentioned earlier, it was like this oasis, right? It was this great server. Everyone really liked each other. We had like PvP days, but no one took anything too seriously. Blah blah blah. And then things really started to kind of turn a little bit bitter with some internal stuff that I mean, I can't even remember what it was, so long ago.
Right.
But then they were invaded by a Korean alliance. I say a Korean alliance, a predominantly Korean alliance,
Okay.
um, that had, at that time, basically what was a maxed account. Um,
Oh wow.
so it wasn't really sort of a server that, like, TNR at that point. I mean, like, I don't know what BR my own castle was. I was the strongest castle in TNR, but I'm like in the low 100 millions. I don't know, like 300 million or something. We've got like a billion whale that's maxed out on the server. So we just decided to move on. But not even because of that, more just because of the toxicity that had kind of risen in a server that used to be really fun. I think that once it gets to that point, you sort of know that the writing's on the wall and it's probably time to move on and go somewhere different. And we'd been under kind of, protection for a while anyway. So I think that people were just kind of ready to see what else was out there. So
Okay.
27 seemed like we'd fought them in a KVK, and the alliances there seemed to be nice, and um, seemed to be sharing castles and whatnot, which is kind of what we wanted. Excuse me, what we wanted at the time.
Okay.
Yeah, so
So you ended up going there.
we moved there. We were there for a few months. It got like a little bit boring for me personally.
How so?
There was a large alliance there at the time called FOF. Um, I kind of wanted to contest them in CGs, and at this time, a lot of like people in TNR just kind of didn't. They just saw them as a bigger alliance, didn't really want to do that. So I basically left, and this is when I went to K-12 just because I wanted to do more PvP.
Ah, I gotcha.
You know, so basically during this time, they people there had asked me to come back, and um, I essentially gave a bit of an ultimatum of sorts. Just where I kind of said, listen, I'll come back, but I want us to be a PvP alliance. Like I want us to go somewhere where we're going to contest, castles and siege. We're going to fight. Like that's going to be the focus of the alliance, and um, they agreed to that, and I brought a few other people that were kind of sort of like-minded, and we moved to K31, to sort of contest some castles and have some more kind of more PvP fun.
Why
So
K31?
so K31, it just was a pretty balanced kingdom. Like
Okay.
I guess like my thing has always been like trying to look for like a good fight. So I think a lot of people in this game want fights they'll never lose, right?
Yes.
And it's got to the point where a maxed like a non-maxed account can't compete with a maxed account. It doesn't matter how good a player you are, right? Doesn't matter how organized your alliance is. Like if the stat differential is too great, you can't compete. Um, my attitude has always been that like I want to find that good fight. Like I want to take on someone whose accounts like similar to mine. I want to take on an alliance that has an account that's stronger, but we're more organized and we're better PvPers. Like those are the fights that interest me.
Right.
Um,
You want the challenge.
exactly. So I think on K31 there was sort of three alliances that were kind of banding together and sort of like I guess you could say bullying. I don't know, right? Like they were working together to like prevent other alliances from getting castles and whatnot. And I at that time would have had a slightly stronger account than any of those alliances, but I knew that all three of them would fight us. So in my mind, thought it would actually be a pretty fun and fair fight because it was kind of 3-on-1.
Right.
So that's why we went there. And shortly after we moved there, like a couple of alliances, like an alliance called WPR and an alliance called OBV, which is Calvin's original alliance that he built up.
Yes.
They moved to K31, and that was actually like as much as there was probably some animosity, if not probably there was some animosity and some whatever. Like I think looking back, that was probably one of the more fun times I've had playing this game because WPR had a couple of accounts that were arguably like, well, not arguably, but one of them was definitely stronger than my account, and one that was really like a little bit stronger. But I think we were better PvPers, and we were back and forth with those alliances like all the time. And I thought it was just a really fun time playing this game. I think I probably took it for granted. Um, it was a pretty fair fight, and despite the fact there was probably some your sort of standard toxicity and kingdom court or whatever, I think that for the most part everyone kind of followed the server rules that we'd all agreed to, and you just don't get that too often these days. I think that servers tend to be just getting burned alive by everyone on the server, or tend to be complete nap servers, and you rarely find servers with a good balance now. Just the way that the sort of the game's gone, but that server actually had some pretty good balance for a while. It was fun.
So, what ended up happening with that kingdom? Where did you end up going after that?
So that kingdom became just like the craziest server for a while because ATD moved there. BTS moved there, BCL moved there. Um,
Oh yeah,
it,
that
it
became one of the
was
Nexus
it
ones, as I call it, the where
yeah,
a whole bunch of alliances just converged.
exactly. So that server just became like the whale fest of all whale fests, and
Yes.
yeah, it was fun. It was interesting. The the irony, I think, is like those servers aren't as fun as you would think. You know, uh, they're actually like there's so many whales there and so many people that just simply can't be rallied. There's actually not as many rallies as you think there would be. There's actually, that it on paper they look like there's going to be crazy fireworks and there's actually not. Um, there was definitely fun moments, but I think that um, I think that after a month or so of ATD sort of fighting with PCL and TNR playing sort of a secondary role, I guess, just because we didn't quite have the same kind of level of accounts. It kind of died pretty quickly after that. And then it was kind of time to move on.
Can you elaborate on that secondary role? Were you allied with?
Yeah, so TNR had and still has like a really good relationship with BCL.
Okay.
I think that I have a lot of respect for that alliance. In a lot of ways that alliance is just too strong. They're too strong for anyone to compete with them in Ace. Things like alliance conquest, and they're certainly too strong for other alliances to compete with them in PvP. But that's just that's not just because they have super strong accounts. It's because they're organized and they communicate well as an alliance and they coordinate things pretty well. So I have a lot of respect for them, and I chat to a lot of their members daily and just have a lot of I like to think there's a lot of mutual respect between our alliances. So we were kind of allied with them,
Okay.
kind of fighting with ATD and BTS. So yeah, it was. I say secondary just because TNR isn't the same kind of powerhouse as an alliance like BCL, but we certainly got our licks in and did plenty of damage. So I shouldn't demean what we did by any means, but
No,
yeah,
it's not
they
demeaning. It's not demeaning. It's showing the relationship that's been going on for that. That makes sense. Um,
yeah.
so eventually it was time to move on, and where'd you guys end up moving to?
So we actually went back to K27.
Okay.
Um, so this was actually a funny one because again we sort of wanted a good fight. That was our thing. We didn't want a fight that there was zero chance of us winning, but we wanted a fight that would be tough. And there was an alliance there that at the time was maybe the third or fourth biggest in the game. They were double our size, I believe. Um, and we thought, okay, we'll go there. They have some stronger accounts. They have way more BR than us, but we kind of backed ourselves as being the better PvPers.
Okay.
And we sort of got there, and I guess we didn't really fully understand or know like kind of the extent that like they had some internal issues, and we kind of got there, and I think the first day or so we zeroed their like biggest player.
Oh
I think he
wow.
was like I think it was like 1.5 billion, and we zeroed him. He was kind of caught AFK, and I say him. I shouldn't say that. It could easily be a female. I don't know, but yeah, we zeroed them. I think obviously that was a knock to their morale, and we beat them first. The next kind of siege, and that alliance imploded within 10 days of us arriving. Like it
Oh
was
wow.
kind of one of the crazier things I've seen. Like probably like I said, the third or fourth biggest alliance in the game, and they fell apart. We hit them pretty hard, but as much as I like to give us credit for doing a lot of damage, I think we were also helped by some internal issues internal issues they had.
Yeah, I
So
was going to ask, do you think there was a morale or because
yeah, I think morale, it's amazing sometimes with alliances that, you look at a lot of alliances that have, a lot of BR. They seem to be thriving, and sometimes you just don't know the extent of the internal issues, which can, they can unravel so fast and so quickly. And
right.
yeah, I've seen it happen with so many alliances. So I guess they had those kind of issues. So once you apply pressure, that's when things start to unravel, and that's what happened.
Okay. So what happened after that?
So after that, it's really that's where we've been since. So
Okay.
they unraveled, they left the server, um, and since then, TNR have been trying to sort of attract other alliances to come to the server, and it's we've done a nice job of getting quite a few alliances to move here. Not no sort of strong alliances, but what we've been trying to do is like really lay off the smaller alliances on like PvP days and things like that. Um, I think that as the biggest alliance on a server, you sort of have to really play it conservatively when it comes to PvP, just because um, when you have big whale players going out smacking smaller castles, even if it's all fair game on a PvP day, they're going to look at you like a bully, and it doesn't create positive vibes on the server. So, like for me personally, I barely PvP'd on my main account for a few months now, just
Which
because
is
it doesn't. The optics aren't good of like the strongest account in the server going out smacking people.
which
So
is very
we've
drastic. That's a very drastic jump from, what you were looking for previously. Are you comfortable with that change? Are
I,
you
I'm fine with it. I think like I'm lucky that I do have like an alt account, which is like I just love playing my alt account.
I
Like
gotcha.
it's I find it so stimulating because it's not as strong. It's a really strong account, but it's not as strong as my main account, and I have to really think fast I tend to take it to servers where the entire server is going to be against me.
Oh, so
Um,
you like playing the villain. You want to get everybody
no,
on you.
I don't like it's. The thing is, it's funny. It's like split personalities, right? Because the servers that I've been on, like with GNR proper, where like I'm trying to build the server, and like I always say this, but like I've never broken a rule that I've agreed to in this game. Like I'm quite principled like that. Like I don't if as a server we make rules, like I'm not going to be the person that breaks those rules.
Right.
Like if we make an agreement, I stick to it. But I'm not going to dress things up. I've taken my alt to quite a few kingdoms and zeroed quite a lot of people, and not followed their rules. And it's funny because it's like on one hand it's me as a leader of or I'm not currently leader of TNR, but like as a leader of alliance, like toeing the line, following the rules, juxtaposed with me going to other kingdoms on my alt and causing carnage. So
So you still have that
um,
escape.
yeah, honestly, I think it allows me to you know be okay with things like not PvPing on my main account at times, just because it's like it's that sort of pressure release valve, right?
Yes.
I get to go, and I always go with friends, and we have a ton of fun PvPing. Do like I I have a crazy amount of merit. Not that merit really matters, right? But it's evidence of PvP is essentially what merit is, right?
Right.
Um, I have a crazy amount of merit on my accounts, but I still feel bad. Like I really do. Like I love going and PvPing and zeroing people and all this kind of stuff, but I do feel bad. Um, so I'm always wrestling with that, I think. Um, that's why I guess I justify it by going to places where there's going to be stronger accounts than mine, and it's like if they're good enough, they're gonna hurt. my account, and they might zero my alt account, and like again, it's this risk factor that I love, but I don't particularly like going places where the fight's not fair. Like if it wouldn't stimulate me, and I would just feel too bad if I like went, paid 90 scrolls to take my ult to some server where no one could possibly even hit me. So I go to these servers where there's whales that try and solo my ult, and I enjoy taking their lords and that sort of stuff. But yeah, those trips are always fun.
So let me ask you then, especially since you're now playing your alt so much instead of your main, do you sort of have more of a mentality that the alt is now the main versus your original character? Because
that's always been the joke. I think it's always been like, I've joked about this a lot, that like I'm much more proud of my alt and like how I've like I think like when I was spending a lot of money on the game, I think in retrospect, like I wasn't always spending smart, right? Like
right.
I think there's like this game's like if you want to have a whale account, it's expensive, and there are smart ways to spend money, and I think that like I used to just like throw money at the account, and my alt account, I've really been very thoughtful in how I've set it up and what I've worked on and the things I've gotten, and I'm arguably more proud of that account and what I've achieved with that account than what I've done with my main. And like I said, I like when the account isn't quite as strong, like it brings that level of pressure. When you're out PvPing, it just brings it so much higher, which I love. I just thrive off that. So it's definitely, I definitely enjoy it more, I would say.
Okay. Let me ask you this. So, what do you believe is the key to a successful alliance?
I think it's a great question.
Thank you.
I think it's so much of it is about a core group of people, right? An alliance is obviously so much more than a few officers, right? But I think that like if you don't have that core group of people that put so much into it to create something and have some kind of vision that they work towards, then your alliance just ends up being kind of incoherent in terms of what it's about, right? What's its purpose.
Right.
And I think that, TNR has always been lucky that it's had this core group of people that have really kept these sort of principles that I discussed right at the very start. This, the kind of the don't be a dick policy, like, that sort of stuff. I think that those people have always been there and always been, the moral compass of TNR.
Mm-hmm.
And we, there's always like, in any alliance, there's always like the unsung hero of the alliance, that like the person who like does the day-to-day stuff, right?
Management. Yeah.
The management stuff. And like, for me personally, like I've always been more like, big picture. I've always handled like the military, like PvP, like side of things, and sort of, big picture stuff. But I candidly have always been good at delegating a lot of the day-to-day stuff. We've just been lucky that, we have Tanelin, who does so much of that like day-to-day stuff, and like, members driving her absolutely insane with all sorts of stuff that she has to deal with. And like it's those kind of people, like every alliance needs someone like that.
Yes.
If they're kind of like the heartbeat of the alliance, right? And they keep things ticking along. And I think you need that. You need those people that, like I said, are like that moral compass that are going to really speak up to any sort of injustices, or speak up when they feel like the alliance is moving in a direction that's not what we're about. And we've had those moments, I think, and but that core group of people, like they're the ones who are going to steer the alliance in any direction, and they're going to make those calls of like, what kind of member we let in, and make those big sort of decisions. So I think that's so key, but more like even more than that is it's like the camaraderie that you build, like having those kind of hangouts in Discord and just sometimes shooting the shit about, excuse my French,
No,
things
no
that
worries.
aren't even game related, and just building that trust over time of getting to know each other. Like that's what, back to like the PvP stuff, that's what so much of that is built on, is this like just it's a group of friends that will do kind of anything for each other in terms of the game, right? Like there's so many people in TNR that would risk their own troops and their own accounts to help another member that's being rallied, and that's something I love about this alliance, right? Like, it's not kind of, they see there's so many alliances. I hate to say this, but so many alliances that these a member is getting rallied, and it's like no one's reinforcing, no
Yeah.
one's unbubbling, no one's doing anything. Like that's just
Well, that's the
if a member.
panic.
Sorry to cut you off.
No, I cut you off. I'm just saying it's the panic, it's the anxiety, it's the deer in
Yeah.
headlights freeze moment.
For sure, and like it's all a lot of it comes from practice, and but like that's just unthinkable in TNR. Like if you're getting rallied stuff, like I know so many people that are like they like I said, they'll risk their own troops to unbubble to help their alliance mates. That's what it's all about, right? It's that team aspect. It's trying not to have selfish players in the alliance. I think every alliance has selfish players, but players that play a certain way that kind of protect their castle. It's like this kind of immaculate talk. We talk a lot about this immaculate castle concept that people have. They're always building towards something. It's like I'll PvP another day, but I'm not there yet. I've got to do this and do that to my account before I can do it. It's like the immaculate castle concept, but we just have good teamwork and good camaraderie, and that's what it's all about, really.
If you were going to give one piece of advice for somebody that wanted to improve in PvP, what would it be?
Honestly, do it. It's the biggest thing with PvP is to learn PvP. You must PvP.
Makes sense.
You like I have this thing where I talk a lot about. There's a lot of players in the game that actually have a really good understanding, and arguably sometimes better understanding than myself or others, about the game mechanics and like how this works and how that works, and they'll kind of wax lyrical about all the kind of the different mechanics of the game, but they're not very good PvPers because they don't actually go out and PvP, right? And that's the thing, is like you can have all the knowledge in the world if you don't actually have the experience where you ingrain certain certain behaviors, like you're never really going to learn, right? Like it requires it requires you to make mistakes and then learn from those mistakes and then try not to repeat them, and you can't fake that, right? You get that experience through doing. So that's my biggest thing, is don't, I think a lot of people, like I said, again, going back to this immaculate castle concept, a lot of people, they don't want to do it until they feel like their castle's in the perfect position to PvP, or they're of a certain strength or a certain BR, and I think just do it. Like troops are one of the easiest things to replace in this game. The expensive stuff rather is is your castle skins or troop skins or refinement or badges, all this kind of stuff that can't be taken away from you. The troops can, but the troops can also be easily replaced. So don't be afraid to PvP, and just get out there and do it. And you know what? You'll make mistakes, because we all have, but you'll hopefully learn from them and you'll get better and better at it.
Okay, thank you for that. Do you have a proudest moment? Either as
Proudest moment.
like alliance leader, so to speak, or just in the game in general?
Proudest moment. Wow. Honestly, like there's not like a single moment that like sort of stands out. I think that like really my proudest moment is just like what TNR has become and like from where we were to where we are now. I think
Mm.
that I'm just very proud of like the alliance we are and the people that we have in the alliance. Like that, like personal glories and all that kind of stuff. Like, you know, sure, I've had some fun times and things that I thought I did that were pretty cool or that whatever, but that's not super important to me. And candidly, I forget them by a week later. Um, it's really just about the people that I've spent the game with and what they mean to me and mean to the alliance. That's what I'm most proud about.
So, I know your favorite part is PvP of the game, but what's your least favorite?
Oh God. Um, I mean, I'm sure everyone says farming, but
Actually, you're the first one to say it, actually. I'm
I
surprised because I thought more people would say it early on, and I think you're like my 10th interview now, and you were the first person to actually come out and say farming.
I honestly I just don't even farm. So I'm kind of
No,
kidding. I don't
hyper
even
farms.
farm.
Hyper farms.
I exactly. My least favorite part is like I think that so here's I have this theory like a sick part of us kind of enjoys the drama, right? The Discord drama, this kind of stuff. Like I definitely think a sick part of it's kind of it's like that like reality TV kind of stuff. But
Mm,
I do think I like honestly not to like kind of sour the tone, but I've been like really I'm not like a huge gamer, right? Like like I said, I was a professional athlete for 15 years, and I didn't really get a lot of opportunity to play games. I did here and there,
right.
um, but a lot like this is sort of the most entrenched and involved in a gaming community I've ever been, and I've been a little disappointed just with some of the stuff that I've seen and read
Mm.
on in Discord and in game. Um, just it kind of I was taken aback, I guess, by like how horrible some people could be to other people.
Yes.
Um, I think that's like again, I'll sort of preface this by saying like I have murdered people's troops and killed people's troops and emptied their castles and whatnot, but I really have like tried and like I'll also be honest, and I've trolled a little bit in world chat, and I've done this and done that, but like I've really tried to do everything in a sort of respectful manner,
Right.
um, or as respectful as I could have been, and um, I just I think that's probably my least favorite part of the game. I mean, in terms of the actual gameplay, like yeah, probably just some of the events I find kind of tedious, but like in terms of my thing I like least about the game is probably that just the way some people treat other people in this game has been a little disappointing to me.
Okay.
But
I can agree with that. That's part of the reason that we have this project now is to kind of maybe clear some of the air, get people understanding each other better, maybe
yeah,
be kinder to each other.
I think it's sometimes just being it's just it's how a lot of it's how people view certain things and for me it's like if someone zeroes my castle like more often than not I'm blaming myself right like
Right.
um you know I haven't really been zero but I certainly have lost lots of troops here and there and often my initial thought is like okay what did I do wrong like that's my analysis right it's like okay like how did I screw up how did I allow this to happen and I think some people take it very personally, right? They take the loss of their troops
Oh,
or
the first time it's a
they,
horrible feeling. It's a horrible feeling. It's one of those ones where you just you question whether you should keep playing. And for some people, they'll see the power discrepancy and it'll get their attention even more, and they're like, why should I keep going? And so that can be a real intimidating factor.
Yeah, for sure. And I get it. Like, I totally understand that it's like, listen, it's not fun to lose troops, especially if you've invested some money in the game. But probably it probably merits a couple of deep breaths and
Yes.
maybe pour yourself a glass of wine. Probably not like a vitriolic hate mail to someone.
No, that's going a little above and beyond. Definitely take the break and reevaluate.
Yeah.
So let's see here. I've been asking people this. There is no pressure to answer. Your choice. Who do you admire in the game? I know you mentioned one of your Alliance leadership members, but is there anybody else that just stands out? And most people get nervous with this question just because there's so many people, they don't want to leave anybody out. So it is entirely your choice if you want to touch on this one or not.
Yeah, that's fine. I think I think there's a lot of, I always appreciate people that are good players. I appreciate people that are good players and good people even more. I think BCL as an alliance, they obviously have Kaina and they have these crazy strong counts, but just as an alliance, I have a lot of respect for them and what they do. There's a team over there I'm not going to name.
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten to spend time and hang out with some of the people there, and I just think there are a lot of good guys and gals that kind of run the show over there. And Cartel is also like an alliance. So Napoleon is just a very fair and reasonable person. And I know that, again, that alliance is really run, as a team effort. So I think that, it'd be unfair to just single him out, but I think he's a great guy and a good player. I'm trying to think of within TNR, I have so much respect that, when you're a whale account, you tend to get more press within the game, right?
Yes.
And people tend to know your name and stuff like that. And again, I couldn't possibly name all the names, but some of the Zero Castles and TNR, people that play Zero Castles are just absolute rock stars in my mind, and they're as good players as anyone that plays this game. They're some of them, I just can't believe how good they are at just not getting their troops hit. It makes me laugh so much as people are trying to hit them and they're just hitting thin air, and those people just don't get enough respect and enough credit for how good they are at the game and what they do. Mm-hmm. So that, I guess, it's a general shout out to all those people playing Zero Castle as all these bloodthirsty whales are trying to kill your troops. I have so much respect for those players, especially as I'm sort of converting my main account to Zero Castle. It's kind of I'm kind of relearning how to do that in some ways. But in terms of other individuals, there's so many. There's no one sort of springing to mind, but I've met just a lot of good players in the game. There's a player actually currently in BCL called Abide, and he's just a Zero Castle, and he's someone that I used to be in TNR with, and that's someone I actually have a lot of respect for as a player. I think he's a very good player and a knowledgeable player. Mm. I'm trying to throw shout outs to those people that kind of, you know what I mean?
The ones that are overlooked. Yeah.
Yeah, I just think it, so much of, like I hate to say it, but there's like so many dumb whales that play the game. Like it sounds so bad, but there really is. But there's a lot of players that are just super smart that you never hear of that just play the game in a very thoughtful manner, kind of through necessity, right?
Right.
Because they're not whales, and I think I would give them a general shout out because like life as a whale can be pretty easy in this game at times. Um, so yeah, like I've got a lot of respect for a lot of the alliances and the way they run. Like Cartel and BCL as I mentioned. Um, but yeah, I'm kind of waffling on, but I've got a
No,
lot of
it's
respect.
great. It's great. So I'm going to start wrapping this up. What is the one thing you would want people to remember most about you?
Um, I would like people to think I'm a good player. I'm not the best player out there, but I do think I play the game in a pretty smart manner and for the most part make good decisions. So I'd hope they appreciate that. Um, and more than anything, I just the people that I've played with and against, like I hope they appreciate that, I'm a fair person and a nice person. Um, that's probably my biggest takeaway. I certainly don't want a legacy of like, oh, you're a good player, but you're a jerk, right? um,
I gotcha.
I'm not a win at all costs kind of person. I'm always looking for those good fights. I think that's actually something that I'd like people to appreciate. You know, you know, for me as a player, I think that I've never tried to go places or take my account places where, I'm going to dominate and call myself the victor. I think I've always tried to step up to the plate and um, some battles that I thought would be good fun and a kind of an even playing field. So
Sounds good.
yeah, that's probably it.
Is there anything else you would like to include in this recording?
No, I just thanks again. Thanks so much for taking on the project. I think it's really cool. Like I'm actually really looking forward to hearing the interviews you've done with other people and hear their insights. And I like to talk a lot. I like the sound of my own voice. So I hope I haven't waffled on too much and bored
No.
people.
No, this was
Um,
wonderful.
yeah, but thanks a lot for taking the time to chat with me.
It was a pleasure. Thanks again, Miller.
Gary, thank you. Take care.
All right. Bye bye.